let's go ahead and get started. My name is Christy Thompson, and I am the Marketing Director here at BIS Technology Group. And today we're going to talk about how to easily spot a phishing email and other ransomware threats. So I'm going to turn it over to Phillip Long. He's the CEO and CISSP here at BIS Technology Group. And Phillip?
Yeah, great. And I really do appreciate all of you spending some time with us today. This is a very important topic, probably one of the very most important topics statistically. And, I've been in the IT business for, over 18 years, and a lot of times as an IT guy, I sometimes go bring out the big gun. And the reality is that more threats are happening over email than any other threat. More successful threats are being pulled off basically by tricking people. I always say that they're hacking people, not hacking systems. So this is going to be, I hope, informative as well as really something that is going to be good for you to keep in mind, and it's things that you're going to want to share with the rest of your staff, because this is the real deal of what's going on out in the world. So we'll go ahead and get started here, and if you have questions or anything that you would like to bring up, you can put it in the chat window, and Christy will kind of gather all those up and ask questions towards the end of our time today. I'm going to try to keep it to about 30 minutes. I find that that's good. We can get the meat of what we're talking about and get it done in about 30 minutes. So to kind of get started, what we want to do is we want to be able to easily spot a phishing email and other ransomware type threats. And of course, most of you guys know me. I've been in this business for over 15 years, about 18 years now. And quite honestly, I just love technology. I love to learn, and I love helping companies. I recently received my Certified Information Systems Security Professional, which is really a very difficult and a very prestigious type of certification. And I got it primarily because of the data and the access that it gives me to be able to help our clients. So it's something that I really like to try to put to use. Currently we work from Gulfport to Gulf Breeze right here on the I-10 corridor, and business is good. Things have been really going well for us, and we appreciate all of y'all that some of you guys on here are clients, and we really do appreciate you a lot, and I want to say thank you. All right, so let's bring some value to the table. Really, what is a phishing scam? And I think in today's environment, pretty much everyone is aware, but it's basically something that is normally delivered via email. Statistically, 70% of successful ransomware attacks, 70% of breaches that happened last year were accomplished by email. So, and the really good ones, it's over 90%. The ones that were really successful, over 90% were handled through email. So again, if we want to talk like, rational people measuring and weighing threats, we really want to put a heavy focus on email, because that's the way we're getting tricked. And we're going to talk about it more in depth, but in essence, it's a way of someone sending you an email that is, it has ill intentions. And we see it all the time. I think everyone's pretty much into that in today's environment. This comes from a 2016 study that Wombat did. 76% of organizations fell victim to phishing attacks, which is absolutely incredible whenever you think about 76%. We've reached a date and time in the security world where it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when, and it's a matter really of how bad. And I think that we're going to see a rapid increase in this. It has statistically been showing that for year on year as time goes. And there's going to be some other things in the threat landscape that are going to open up that have to do with the Internet of Things, and BYOD, people, employees allowed to bring their own device and have it on the corporate network, as well as then it leaves that secure environment and it comes back to the corporate network. And if it's on that same network, there's a lot of risk that's also going to exacerbate this type of problem, because they're going to be able to get our email addresses. They're going to know who we are and where we are, and they're going to be able to more effectively target us. So, again, like I said earlier, emails are the number one way for delivery for malware. And it is, if it's one thing that we really want to hone our attention on and something that we want to train our staff on, I think one other thing that we have to keep in mind whenever we're dealing with something like this, you would think as business owners a lot of time, or as IT managers a lot of time, we think we tell them one time and they're going to get it. And they may get it for that day, and they may get it to some level, but it's like any other type of training. You have to train, and you're going to get a bump in awareness. And then if you don't train for a while, that awareness begins to wear off. It falls down. So you really need to have, I would even say, planned dates and times, or maybe even planned training sessions that are going to happen throughout the year, because just think about the number of emails that every one of your employees, which you get, and every one of your employees gets. The number one type of phishing email are fake invoices. When you think about it, it'd be a pretty effective way on a lot of levels if they were able to actually guess. There's one that is used a lot that has to do with UPS or Amazon, or not so much Amazon, but UPS, your billing on that. I've seen that one several times. And think about it, a lot of people use UPS. So in one regard, it's like, oh, I use them, I'm very casual to that, click, bang, something bad happens. Or it could be where the other reaction is somebody sends you a bill and you're like, hey, hang on a minute, that ain't my bill, I didn't use that service. Click, bang, you're infected. And it really can happen that quick and that fast. So we can all see how this could be a very effective way to get people infected. Apple IDs are the number one target in theft emails in 2017. And what they're ultimately wanting to be able to do is steal identities, and to be able to parlay your identity to be used to entangle other people into their plots. So you want to really watch for somebody's asking for your Apple ID, or if they're trying to get you to do that. I actually have a few samples of real live emails that I want to get to and kind of take you through it so we can really see what's going on. So I'm going to speed up the pace just a little bit. There's really 5 S's that you need to pay attention to whenever you're checking your email. The first one is the sender's email. And I'm going to show you in a minute exactly how to do that. You're going to want to look at that email, and you're going to hover over it and see if indeed, I could send an email on any one of your behalf and put your name on it. And if you didn't, it could say, Christy Thompson, but underneath it could be badguy@gmail.com. So you have to hover over the sender's email to see if it's indeed coming from the person that you have that you think it's coming from. Subject lines are a very important way. Again, call to actions, things that require immediate response, or the things that's going to go on. A delivery attempt was made. Hey, a delivery attempt was made, and we didn't make the delivery. UPS label delivery, change of password required immediately, or unusual sign-on activity. We get those things whenever we do something. You get a new phone and you connect it up, and you're going to get an email that says, hey, so-and-so, you just signed in with your Google account on this phone. And those kind of things make us go, whoa, wait a minute. And again, that causes a quick reaction where people don't think, and boom, they're taken off. Another one is looking at suspicious links or attachments. That's a big no-no. They're trying to get you infected by letting you click on a link. And I'm going to show you some things on that in our kind of live demo of a couple of phishing emails that I captured. The link is oftentimes if you hover over it, you can see where it actually goes. If you're getting something from UPS and you hover over the link and it's not going to ups.com, then you know that's going to be a bad a bad phishing attack, as well as attachments. They're doing that a lot whenever you go to open up, and I have an example of this, that can send you something in a PDF that actually wants you to reach out and maybe connect to another website or to go to a Dropbox account or to an Adobe Drive account and all these other ways. And I'm going to show you how to use Preview on attachments for Adobe documents. It really works well in knowing what's inside of that email. Also, spelling and grammar is often bad in these emails because a lot of these, the bad guys, the bad actors, are foreign. Now, there is more stateside phishing attacks happening every day. It's way up. I think it's 30-40% are stateside now. So that's not going to be as good of an indicator, but it still might be, because there's going to be a certain thought process. If Apple were to send you an email, or if Microsoft or if UPS was going to send you an email, there's going to be a certain wording to it that you may be able to notice over someone who maybe isn't a top English student. So watch your spelling and your grammar. Also, there's some things that are happening out there. I saw one recently, and it was a sinister, threatening type of an email saying there's some that go around about like IRS that say you owe this money, and if you don't, they're going to seize your accounts. They're going to do a lot of things to you. So those types of things will invoke a response quickly, as well as there was one that a client sent me not long ago, and it had something to do with they had been watching them on their camera, and that if they didn't send them so many Bitcoins, so much money, that they were going to basically release that video of them on their camera to all of their people in their contact list. So a lot of times these phishing attack guys, they try to bully you, and they try to think that they have something on you. It also could be that I have one example I'm going to show today that has to do with somebody wanting to buy some items from us, and we'll talk about that when we get there. So let's kind of buzz through. There's 10 tips for avoiding phishing scams. Don't give confidential email out over email. That's number one right there. And also the people, the IRS, the UPS, Microsoft, Google, no one is going to require you to send out any type of information that is confidential over email. That will not happen. Second is, don't click on an email without verifying those things that we talked about earlier. Look at the where it's coming from. Look at the link, and I'll show you how to hover over a link and look at where it's coming from. And then have somebody else review the email if you're unsure. Send it to your IT guy. I get tons. I probably get 10 a week from people that just say, "Hey, look at this. What do you think?" And out of the 10, usually almost all 10 are bad. So, the people that are doing it, they're doing the things that we want them to do. They're looking at it, they're identifying it, and then they're also, if they're not sure, they're going to send it out to somebody to have it viewed and looked at. You really want to watch on visiting sites that are only HTTP. That, of course, is secure, is what the S stands for. The HTTPS is secure, and you're going to get, it's going to be less likely. Although I will note that the fastest growing area of encryption of spread of infection is actually coming on HTTPS. And it used to be that it was very difficult to get a what we call a cert, an authorized cert that you can put on there to make it where you actually can do the HTTPS. There's a process, a vetting process that goes on behind that. Now that is almost totally out the window. It's a scam. The fastest growing, like I was saying, the fastest growing threats are happening with people that have purchased certs and are using HTTPS, and it makes it much more difficult if you don't have the proper firewall and the proper setup, because of the way that encryption works, and that traffic that is being encrypted must go, it can't be viewed. I always explain it like a peanut M&M. You know a peanut is in that M&M, but you can't inspect it. You can't look at it. And it's the same way with HTTPS, and they're able to get past a lot of the protections that are out there because it's encrypted traffic. So just keep that on the radar. I'd be happy to talk with you about that later on offline, but that is something that you need to have the right type of firewall in order to take a look at that traffic that's inside of that encryption. You also want to use email filtering with link checking. This is probably almost what I would say would be almost mandatory in today's environment. And another thing, and let me explain what link checking is. That's kind of a basic name. If you may have heard it called advanced threat protection or sandboxing. And in essence, what's going on is they're taking and looking at that email, and if there's a link in it, they actually click the link to see if anything bad, if it detonates something bad before it gets to you, so that you know that the email that's coming to you is not only spam free, but it's also infection free. You can check the links as well as attachments. So if you're using the proper product, you'll notice that for me, I have to use an outside account in order to get these things through. I have to kind of work around our system in order to even have the demos, because we just don't get them because we're using a really good email filter. But that's really important. If you don't have that, or if you want to talk about that offline, let me know, because that's almost a necessity. And I'll give you one more quick little tip, is you don't want to well, I forgot what I was even going to say. I know. On email, you want to make certain that you block all of the webmail from your users. If it's our biggest threat, and I have it wide open where people can go to their personal email accounts, then I've increased my risk greatly. And I have seen, countless times where the infection got into the network and it came through someone's Yahoo account, a personal user's Yahoo account. It's too easy to block, so you really want to focus on that. One of the problems is, if you're installing using consumer grade antivirus, that really, like the free antiviruses that are out there, they really have a very poor performance whenever you look at them compared to the really good ones. And the reason in the market why they will, of course, the only reason they give it to you free is because they're trying to get you to pay, get the paid for version. And the reason the free version doesn't work is because it doesn't update. It doesn't have all the filtering features turned on. And in today's environment, it's what we call a multi-vector threat. So you really need a full-blown product that can block it. So don't use the free stuff. Also, another big thing is your web browser. Microsoft releases a lot of updates, and one of the things, even with the new Edge browser that's in Windows 10, they promote how fast it is, but it's incredibly vulnerable to threats right now. It is not secure. It's not hardened. So I would even recommend, not using Edge. I would use Chrome if it were me. and possibly even FireZilla or Mozilla has a pretty good secure browser as well. But you got to keep it updated. Not only do you need to to run a good one, but you also have to keep it updated. And I would not run any of the little cheapy free ones or whatever. I just wouldn't do it. It's just too much risk. Again, you don't want to set up a consumer grade firewall because these firewalls don't have that active monitoring and management of the data. Then they can't look in the SSL traffic like I spoke on earlier. It's just really not going to give you the protection that you need. The threats are advanced, and they are picking off guys like these that have consumer grade firewalls. I see it all the time. And in a lot of industries, from a compliance standpoint, you are required to have what some refer to as a next generation or a firewall with filters. So you can block intrusion, you can block viruses, spyware, and a lot of other things. It's really a conversation unto itself. And then also, you want to monitor your online accounts for suspicious activity. I personally, LifeLock is probably not a bad product. I personally like another product that's called ID Shield that they'll actually do restoration. We could talk about that online, but there's too many transactions, and the longer that a transaction stays out there or basically goes without you knowing about it, the more damage that's done. If you can be notified if somebody runs your credit, if somebody files your taxes, if somebody does these things, immediately or right after the fact, you're going to be so much better off. And these services, I think I have my whole family covered. It's like $20 a month, $25 a month, and I have not only myself but also my children, which is one of the fastest growing areas of identity theft, is in with kids. So you really want to think about that. Again, that's something we can talk about more offline if you'd like more information on. And then train your staff. That's probably number one that you want to do is, not for you just to know this, but to pass this information on. And it needs to be succinct. It needs to be something that is talked about often, because, if you just think about how many emails, I probably get 180 to 200 emails per day. And those are different things, not necessarily, and they're not spam. Those are real emails that either I'm allowing somebody to send to me, or there are things pertaining to clients or staff that I'm dealing with. Well, you think about how if you check 100 emails a day, it's going to be a very repetitive task. And, you go out, you're out of the office, you come back, you got 50 emails, and you got a whole bunch of other work to do. You're going to sit down and you're going to go through them without your mind being fully engaged. And the only way is you have to train. So that's very important, that you want to make sure that's happening. I'll tell you what I'd like to do now, which I think will be most beneficial for our last time together here, is I want to pull up a couple of actual phishing attacks that that I have seen. Here's one of them. This is one. Now, this wasn't a very good one if you ask me. Now, look, I'm going to be clicking on some stuff, and I've got a lot of security in place. This machine right here is basically a burner. I can put it back to the way it was before I get started if something bad happens. So do not click on these things that you know about. Well, this particular one, we can see that this came from. Just ignore this. This was a guy that responded. You can see that this particular support at company netflixon.onmicrosoft.com, this would be the from address right here. Now, they didn't try to mask it. It's just, but, they kind of have Netflix in it, but you can see clearly this did not come from Netflix. And, of course, they sent it out to a whole bunch of people. In their they carbon copied. They probably should have blind carbon copied, but again, these folks aren't that good. And ultimately, your account is on hold. Please update your payment details. We're having some trouble with your current billing information. We'll try again, but in the meantime, you may want to update your payment details. Well, Netflix would never, ever, ever do this. Now, if you notice how I'm hovering over this link, and I don't know if you're going to be able to see it, but we use a filter here that has looked at this link now, and you can see it says linkprotect.kudaservice.com, which is the service that we use to check the link. But if you didn't have that, it would say some place that it's going, which if you look a little closer, it's going to https://flixnetid.tumblr.com, which of course is not Netflix, so we know this is total spam. And you can see right here, and of course, deceptive site ahead. And this is giving us the warning that says, hey, this ain't right. Now you can click here and you can say, go ahead and visit the site, which of course I'm not going to do. But I do not recommend in any way doing what I just did, clicking on that. I knew this. I've got the protection in place. I'm on a machine that I can set back to defaults after I get finished with this demo. So do not do this. Look at the things that you're seeing, and move away and just delete that email. All right, that's one. And the second one is an invoice. Now this is just going to our web design, and it's an outstanding invoice. This is a friendly reminder that the following invoice is overdue. File attached for your reference. Please make arrangements to pay this invoice at your earliest convenience and inform us as to when we can expect the total amounts. Regards, Carrie. Now this one, of course, isn't trying to represent anyone, but what the trick is right here, and they're not masking who it's coming from. This is actually this company. Now, one thing that I would do is I would go look at this email right here, this domain. But you got to be careful. I don't recommend this necessarily, because this website, this domain itself could actually be something bad for us. So let's just look at this real quick and see where this is going to go and take us. And it may be dead. It may be a dead link. It's this mail is a few days old. This came in on the 22nd, and I saved it. So this site may actually not pull up. But anyway, well, maybe. Well, no. The site is really not even up, and they may have never actually had a website up on it. But this is the thing in here that I want you to look at and pay attention to. You see how it's got a PDF, and you can turn this on, but you can go to the preview, and I really recommend previewing documents before you open them. You can do them with Word documents, you can do them with PDFs, Excel, and you can look, and if they ask you to turn a macro on, like if it's an Excel document, do not do it. It is something that is going to be malicious. So ultimately, this is connecting back to Microsoft OneDrive. It has the open on it, and again, do not try this at home. But this is the document that's embedded in a PDF. This is a very common way that they want to infect us. You can see I can click here, and I'm going to allow this to happen. And again, they're already onto them, and they're not going to, that's been already called out as a bad deceptive site. The problem with this is, and the reason that the bad guys are able to get through, is because it's what's called a 0-day threat, which means nothing more than the right then I clicked on that and it said that the site was deceitful or it was a dangerous site. Well, that's because the filters and everybody has updated. But the game that the bad guys are playing with us is that they're trying to beat the filters, and they do often. And up until the point of when the filters are aware that that's a bad site, you would be able to go there. So there's a window of opportunity from the time that a new bug is launched till the time that the patch is applied so that you're protected. And that's called a 0-day threat, that time in between. And that's why it's important not to use those consumer grade products like we spoke about earlier. Here's another one that we see often, and in our industry, depending upon what kind of industry, a long time ago, probably 15 years ago, we almost got bit by this. There was a particular company, and they had everything in there. I mean, they had like a very legitimate company, like out of our market, like in Texas, but they wanted to buy like 100 hard drives or something like that. Well, we called, and sure enough, they answered and acted like that company, and they said, yeah, we want to buy 100 of those hard drives. Okay, great. We gave them a price. Okay, great. Here's a credit card. Ran the credit card. The credit card absolutely worked. So we're thinking, wow, we just get this big order just showed up in email. We're happy. And I remember we did that. We hadn't shipped. We hadn't ordered and shipped yet. But that was one of the deals. We were going to be sure that the money cleared. And went to lunch, came back, and I said, you know what? There is no possible way. So at this, like the email, the phone number was there, and it had all the company credentials, like Exxon or something out of Texas. I called the actual location there, and it wasn't the same number. They had just hoped that I would pick up that phone number right there. I actually called this guy right here, and he was terrible. He wasn't any good. He was not a good scammer at all. He didn't put up a fight even, but ultimately he wanted me to call him, and he was going to give me someone else's credit card that might possibly run. I shipped the parts, and then the credit card company realizes that this is a scam, and then they deduct it out of my merchant account. I'm left holding the bag. So that's a scam in itself. And again, there's so many other scams that are out there that that are out, that there's a CFO, CEO scam where some very big organizations have been taken for a big ride, where the CFO will send an email to the CEO and say, hey, I want to go ahead and purchase this particular whatever piece of property, buildings, whatever they're in the business for. I need you, the CFO, to wire the money to this account so I can make this transaction. So, and that's happened. I mean, it's happened a whole lot, and a lot of people have gotten hurt like that really bad. So if anybody wants you to do a wire, you need to set up a policy within your organization to verify with a voice, and make it to where you call them and that's their cell number and that's them, or so that you can't be fooled by someone else. You need to have a voice confirmation or a 2 or 3 part type confirmation before you start wiring money, because again, these people are getting slicker and slicker in the way that they're getting us to do things. And on a wire, I think it's something like 4 hours if you wire money, and if you can't stop it in about 4 hours, that money can be gone forever. I've been on several cases like that. And I think I'll end and I'll go to questions, is just talking about just the landscape about having your documents. Not only do you want to train your people, but you want them to sign off on what is an acceptable use policy. Because and it's really not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. When something happens, and depending upon whose data that might be breached or whatever, there'll be an attorney out there. I was on a call with one of my medical clients just the other day, and they get Alexander Shannara on them for, I think he wanted something ridiculous, and they had to settle for about $35,000. But they didn't have their paperwork in place, and they could have been in a lot better position if they would have said, no, we trained all of our staff not to click, not to talk, not to whatever, understanding what personal identifiable information is. So there's some documents that I really highly recommend you get put in place. They're easy to put in place. They make a lot of sense whenever you have a conversation around it. I'll give you the documents. I really do. I want to help our community become more cyber secure. So, any questions that anyone has as far as
Well,
from here?
Philip, before we get to the questions, we did want to talk about the special offer, which is the training for your employees. So if you do want training for your employees on phishing emails and other security attacks, please send an email to events@askbis.com, and that's events with an S on the end at askbis.com. If that's something you're interested in. As he was saying, with the new law that's been passed in Alabama, if you're not trying to be compliant or you're not consistently training your employees or doing things to try to protect information, it could end in heavy fines. So I know we had a few questions come in as far as phishing. Then hold on, let me pull it up really fast. Yes. Okay, when it comes to a phishing email, can they hack the email? Yeah, that's what it says. Yeah.
Usually no. I mean, usually you have to click, and that's why it's so hard to do it. But I mean, I've seen. I think I know where you're going, and it's the most effective way to make things work. If I could ever get your email address and your password, man, I could just sit back and watch your emails. There was a particular case I was on about 2 years ago that a title company had one of the actual realtor that did a lot of business with them had his email account hacked. And at the end of a closing, there was a disbursement check, and that was cut to the people, and the realtor, which was not the realtor, it was the bad guy who had obtained the guy's Gmail account, emailed the title company employee and said, "Hey, go ahead and stop payment on that check and wire the money here." And they did it, and it was I forget, $130,000 or $160,000 mistake, and they didn't know about it until 6 or 8 hours later, and that money was gone. So, and the way that they try, and again, there's a lot of ways. Still, a very large percentage of people use their same username and password, and I forget statistically, but on most accounts, your email is your username. And a very large percentage of people use the same password across multiple accounts. So let's just say that somehow I was able to trick you out of your Netflix account password. No big deal. Email, and I got your password. Well, what if that's your email password too? And now I have access to your email. Think of the damage that I could do by just watching your emails. Oh, okay, they're going on vacation. I know a lot about that. Oh, okay, they're fixing to purchase this. Okay, they're going to do that. And these guys will just sit and wait and gather information, and they can and will use it against you. And it's a matter of, like I said earlier, you got to train people to be aware of it. You got to change your passwords. You got to have some other policies. There's really like 7 things that I have it cooked down to that that matter a lot in reducing risk. And of those 7 things, they're either free or virtually free to implement. And I bet you way more than half the environment does not have those things in place. And yet, we got IT guys like me. I fit in that bucket. I could sell you a penetration test and do a whole bunch of other things. And one of the things I like about, remember the certification I spoke of earlier, is that it helps you measure and weigh risk. And that's probably the biggest thing, is that, you need to hit the low-hanging fruit that can secure you. And I'll stop my rant here, but one last piece of it is, if you think about things, like I could spend, say, $100 and get you 90% secure. And to get that last 10%, it may take $1,000. So there's a diminishing return as it relates to percentages of security, but most people don't spend $100 to get 90% there, and they'll often be wanting to spend that 1,000 and leave themselves still very vulnerable because they didn't do the right things on the low end. All right.
Yeah, we had another question come in about social media engineering and hacking. Someone's Facebook page had been hacked, and they were wondering kind of what to do with that.
Yeah. You report to all your friends. Again, they're trying to, possibly they're going to use your sphere of influence and track and gather information about your friends, your family, and things like that is one thing that they can do with that. But really, the only thing that you can do is to log in, change your passwords, and then notify all of your friends and family that you've been hacked. And sometimes they do it even by just creating another account completely. Like, I could go out there on any one of you probably and go grab your picture, and I could set up another Facebook account as you, and then start inviting friends to be friends with that by looking at your Facebook account who your friends are. And I think the world moves so fast is a lot of times you don't remember, aren't they already my friend? And you'll just click and add them again, and it really won't be who you think it is. So to fix that, I mean, really all we can do is, in the case that your account gets hacked, is change your passwords and notify your friends.
Okay, and I'm going to just unmute everybody. If anyone else has any other questions, they can kind of shout them out. So everyone's been unmuted if there are any more questions.
This is the proposal. We ended up laying out this building, canopy, and pad.
Okay, I know we had one last question come in, which is, how will I know I've clicked through on a phishing email?
I tell you, I would be amiss if I said that there's an absolute way to know. And I wish there was. Sometimes you would know, but there's a lot of times what happens is they'll drop something on your machine, they'll capture your keystrokes, or and then send them out to a bad guy's server so they can steal data. They can get all of your websites that you go to, or whatever else they really want to do. You want to mute everybody back, Christy? But that's one thing. I don't want to address that just like with the one and done kind of an answer, because that's the problem. That's why you never want to click on it, because you never know what they're going to do. There's products that are out there that will show, like, forensically what files have been changed. We use a particular product for antivirus that'll do that for you. But it's very difficult, and that's the fear, and that's why you want to train people to think before they click, because 60% of I'll tell you how fearful this is. 60% of threats live like 15 months on a particular machine before they're discovered. So there's something that has happened and infected a machine, and for 15 months on average, the bad actor has collected data from that machine before they're discovered. So there's really not a great way to know. You need to have a defense in depth strategy to not only just, have a good spam filter and good antivirus, but there's some other products in that defense in depth strategy that will really bring about protection. So, and really, it's one thing that you have to recognize and realize is that, you can stay where you are and accept the risk. You can do it yourself and try to mitigate that risk, or you can hire somebody to help you. And, that's what I've been doing for the last 18 years, is basically trying to find cost-effective solutions that fit the folks with what we got. one thing that we are giving away, like if you came here, if you'll email events, and I'll have it here in a second, we'll give away free compliance and security training for your entire staff. All that I'm really going to ask you for is that you put them in an Excel spreadsheet so I can import them and I don't have to hand key them. But I'll give your entire staff cybersecurity training. It's good training, very up to date with the modern threats about how they're trying to steal our data. And all you have to do is go to well, where is it? Right here. If you email events@askbis.com, we'll be happy to drop that out there for you. All right, so I went over a little bit, so I apologize for that, but it really was a lot of information here to give, and it is a topic that I think is absolutely paramount in our understanding of security, and it is the lowest hanging fruit that's out there. And there's about 6 other items that we can discuss offline. So, Christy, I'll turn it over to you. That's really all I got.
Okay, guys. Well, thank you everyone for joining. Once again, if you want the free training, send it to events@askbis.com. And I believe next month we're going to be doing another webinar on cybersecurity, so we'll be sending that out. So be on the lookout. Thanks, guys.
Yeah. Thanks, everyone, for listening. If you have any questions, just let me know. Thank you.